Depuis des millénaires, des peuples du monde entier racontent une étrange légende. Nous vivrions sous un firmament, une voûte céleste solide qui nous séparerait du cosmos. Mais parfois quelque chose tombe du ciel, ce que l'on appelle les sky stones. Des pierres si froides qu'elles brûlent la peau, venues de cette mystérieuse barrière céleste. Récemment, une vidéo aux États-Unis montre un toit percé par une pierre de glace tombée du ciel. Un phénomène étrange qui laisse les Américains perplexes. Certains pensent qu'elle est tombée d'un avion, d'autres y voient une anomalie bien plus mystérieuse. Et si le ciel n'était pas ce que nous pensions?
I don't know if you can tell, but there's a little bit of ice. There's ice over here. Fire department, fire department, police officers here trying to figure out. I mean, obviously it had to have come from a plane. I mean, where else could it come from? I mean, and the lady next door she actually saw it come down. So now they're here.
They must have been walking.
Yeah. And
They must have been walking.
And it just sounded like a big bomb, like just went off or something?
I didn't hear nothing.
Well, you were, yeah. So, and the neighbor next door is not home, so, this is just crazy.
They can't tell me that's a piece of ice that fell into that lady's roof. That is a piece of the motherfucking firmament. When they get that object out of that lady's roof, they are going to take it away and she is never going to see or hear about it again. Like ice. A big piece of ice large enough to put a large hole in your roof. That was not no ice. That's what it looks like because it's a glass dome, but that ain't no ice. They kept fucking with that firmament. Now they about to fuck around and find out. So we got mysterious objects falling out of the sky in PA. No one seems to know what it is. And everyone that reported it said for some reason they could not pull their phones out and record it because whatever was falling out the sky had them mesmerized. And shortly after it fell out the sky, sheriff and police pulled up and was in that area. No one was allowed in that area. We got several plane crashes and the energy is just completely the fuck off. Something big is about to happen. And I guess we just gotta sit around and wait for it to happen. And TikTok, this is for entertainment purposes only my thoughts, my opinions. And save this video because when that lady don't see that object or they take it and just walk away, y'all gonna know who said it first.
We weren't supposed to see these, as these biblical stones are coming out everywhere, and what this means for our world is terrifying. People were shocked after it was discovered blue stones, or referred to as sky ice in Antarctica, were found, and they resemble the exact same objects that Ezekiel mentions in the Bible, claiming what the firmament or the dome of earth is made out of, saying the firmament material would appear like sapphire or blue stone. But how this was found is even more insane, as decades ago a scientist had leaked they found sky ice after years of research in Antarctica, claiming that the government has sealed all this away, knowing could lead to terrifying changes about our planet and science. With him saying that the government had found an entire ice wall made out of the biblical sky ice. The same ice wall that the pancake Earth believers say is in Antarctica, possibly proving that the Earth may be a lot bigger with many more continents than we could ever know on the other side. With any scientific discovery, we need to look at the concrete evidence, and satellite images still point to a frisbee Earth not existing, and likely nothing beyond an ice wall. But wouldn't it be crazy?
I was working just right in my office room, and I just heard a loud bang, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I said just very loud, and it just vibrated the house. I was advised to call the brigade, so I called the brigade, and before you know it, they were right there within 10-15 minutes. It's something that they've never been called to before, but they did say it was actually common where black ice can literally come from an aeroplane and literally can hit a house at such a high impact. It's just like 1 in a million, but I just learned something new today, that these things can happen and you kind of don't feel very safe in your home. It was just debris, ice everywhere. And when I literally picked up that ice, and it was literally, I just had to put it back down again. It was just very cold and it just melted by 7 o'clock the same evening.
You see where that ice went blasting through those people's house? Like it went straight through their freaking roof? I've been looking at it quite a bit and I really couldn't tell you what it is. Some people were saying it's where their planes flush their toilets. No, it's not. That's called freaking blue ice, and that's not what happens. And it's rare that happens. It could have been the planes de-icing. Once they go up and they hit a warmer area, they will de-ice if they have some on their wings. But that's kind of a rare thing to happen. They did say that they checked the flight app and there was 2 planes flying above their house. I don't know. Because what's bad is I can't even come up with a conspiracy theory to explain what this one is unless the freaking aliens are pissed off at us and like, chunking. We're trying to tell y'all we hear. Y'all don't pay attention, so they're just slinging ice balls at us. That'd be freaking hilarious. I'm not saying it's aliens, but it might be aliens. Or I don't know what it is. It could be just, I don't know. It'd be so rare for ice to fall off a plane, especially that thick of a chunk. That'd be crazy. That's a lot of ice accumulation on an airplane wing. I don't know. Tell me, what do y'all think it is? I'm kind of curious to hear what everybody thinks.
Hello?
Reißt du mal meine Hand? Ich komm mal zu dir. Komm mal her. Ich komm mal zu dir. Komm mal her. Greif mal meine Hand.
Mira, mira, los dos ahí. Hola. ¿Ves cómo estaban hablando? ¿Ves? Mira, se están susurrando ahí. Le estamos viendo.
Están los dos como trabajando ahí.
Ya, mira. Ustedes nos ven a nosotros. Levante un brazo, por favor. Para saber que sí, que nos está viendo. No, dice la chica, ha dicho que no.
Sí, la chica está como se está tapando con la cara.
Yo creo que esta es la chica y el otro
sí.
es el chico.
Sí.
Porque se ve como de la IA así vergonzosa ella.
Sí, más pequeña, ¿no parece?
No os queremos hacer nada. Nos gustaría solamente hablar y si necesitáis algún tipo de ayuda os ayudamos.
Les temples anciens de l'Inde semblent témoigner d'un savoir oublié, sculpté avec une précision inexplicable, comme le temple de Kailesha taillé à même la roche. Il défie les capacités humaines connues. Certains rappellent étrangement les Vimana, ces engins volants des textes sacrés, avec des formes évoquant des réacteurs. Utilisait-il une énergie libre, une force aujourd'hui disparue? Ces structures monumentales sont-elles de simples temples ou les vestiges d'une technologie perdue?
Sacred geometry. Géométrie sacrée et
Remember they
ADN.
said that 98% of our DNA was junk? That's because they were looking into the helix straight on like this. When you look at it down the top of the helix, we get sacred geometry, all right? This is all your somatic frequencies right here. All right, so this is your DNA helix from the top looking down. This is all your somatic frequencies, and this is all your church windows. So who else is going to be able to explain how the church had the shape of our DNA 1,500 years before Harvard was even established? That's because this is your DNA operating at different frequencies right here. This article talks about DNA as an electromagnetic fractal cavity resonator, its universal sensing, and fractal antenna behavior. This means that your DNA literally connects you to the Father, alright, through the ether. This is going to be your connection to Christ. Now, this is why when we look at the US patent design for a fractal antenna, we get a cross, okay? That's where cruciform DNA comes from, because it's all your linear DNA, your two-strand DNA folds into cruciform stacks. This is your connection to Christ right here. Here it is again, double-stranded DNA with self-complementary sequences can form cruciform structures, okay? This is how these DNA strands fold and they connect as an antenna through the ether and electromagnetic forces to the Father. That's why all your rose windows are the same shape as your DNA helix from the top down, because they had the structure of the DNA 1,000 years before Harvard was established. So this is a ResearchGate article of the cross-section of DNA from the top. You see all these colors right here, how they blend into resonance like that? That's all these base pairs on the inside of the DNA structure right here, the helix forming a resonance, right? And they produce color charges, and this is the basis and the building blocks of your DNA structure. They're all going to form together to form sacred geometry. The same shapes that are in all your stained glass windows. Okay, these are all somatic tones. This is all magnetic resonance, okay, through sound waves and light and energy that interacts with our DNA structures. You can see here right at the top, these are all your vowels, okay? The somatic frequencies are all your vowels. This is a church window, all right? And we have the Aztec, Egyptian, Hindu, and even CERN, because this can be used for the good or the bad. This was in all of our ancient cultures, and this is what CERN reverse engineered. This is your DNA structure right here from the top. That's another somatic window right there. Because your DNA is an antenna, okay? It connects you to Christ. This is why the Catholic Church had the structure of our DNA 1,000 years before Harvard. I'm not even playing, okay? This is the inside of your DNA. These are all atoms right here and color charges interacting together that bond and produce a magnetic resonance. And it creates a resonance, a magnetic field, and this is what powers all your cells and all your cellular functions.
Little fairy on camera.
Petite fée en caméra?
Look how slow it's going.
It looks like it's going into the sky now.
It's too high to be in a helicopter.
It turned.
It's literally like...
Didn't it turn?
It's not going that fast.
Yeah, but it turned that way.
Turned.
Because it looks smaller.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
Now it literally just looks like a black dot.
It's 100% not an airplane or a helicopter or a balloon. Or a hot air balloon. It's too high to be a drone.
I think it has a flashing light on it.
Hear it.
I cannot hear it.
Listen real carefully. Not that thing behind them.
Il existe de nombreuses histoires à travers le monde sur l'existence des vastes réseaux de tunnels souterrains, notamment aux États-Unis, où des lieux comme Dulce et la zone 51 reviennent souvent dans les témoignages. Selon certaines sources, ces tunnels abriteraient des installations secrètes où se dérouleraient des expériences inavouables. Des témoins affirment y avoir aperçu des créatures connues sous le nom des gris, ces êtres humanoïdes à la peau cendrée et aux grands yeux noirs. Contrairement à l'image souvent véhiculée des extraterrestres venus d'ailleurs, je pense que ces entités ne sont pas d'origine extraterrestre, mais bien terrestre. Leur nature pourrait être bien plus sombre, proche de celle des démons, et leur présence sur Terre remonterait à bien plus longtemps qu'on ne l'imagine. relais.
You know what this is? No, it's not an alien, not an extraterrestrial. It's a demonic spirit that was drawn by a guy named Aleister Crowley, the most famous Satanist occultist in history, one of them anyway. You find this all the time with so-called UFOs, all kinds of connections. You know, 1947, the first famous case of UFO sighting, Kenneth Arnold, a pilot, and he saw these 9 objects over Mount Rainier in the state of Washington. And afterwards, he had phenomena in his home. There were orbs of light all over his house. And later on, he became obsessed with owls that are associated with the occult. Psychic phenomena was the thing he got into also. An owl was often seen by a guy named Whitley Strieber at a famous communication and abduction experience. And Betty and Barney Hill, they were abducted, and afterwards they heard disembodied footsteps coming up the stairs in their house, and in an apartment they kept in the house, the faucets kept going on and off, and objects disappeared and reappeared. And in her sister's house, Betty's sister's house, there were also all kinds of doors opening and things of that nature. You know where this is? Salem, Massachusetts. You see what I mean? These connections are endless, going right back to the Nephilim. And we got to watch out right now, because doors, portals are being opened by all kinds of occult activity. Usually, back in the old days, UFOs were much more frequently seen in the Soviet Union when they were into psychic phenomena. Now, they're big time here in the United States and around the world. Just a bit of caution, because we're dealing with something that's not from another planet, but from another dimension, a spiritual one.
Phil Schneider.
I'm Phil Schneider. I spent 17 years in black budget programs, government geologist, as engineer, structural engineer with aerospace applications, self-taught metallurgist. In working with the black projects, I was involved in something very controversial, almost totally unbelievable to most of you. I was involved in building another base inside of Dulce, New Mexico, which is Los Alamos Laboratory. On the southwest part of the Archuleta Mesa, we were in the process of the early stages of building. We drilled 4 large tunnel-like holes. Some of them ran 2.5 miles under the surface. Anyway, after we drilled all 4 holes, it took about 2 days to drill all 4 of them. And when you build an underground base, you drill 4 basic holes, and then you build called stopes or cross-member holes across, and then you use blasting equipment, and you literally blast out or tunnel out or deflagrate or melt rock out. The equipment kept coming up broken. So we wanted to go down, we wanted to send somebody down there, a human observer, or human observers in this case, to find out what was going on. When I saw Green Beret and Black Beret people encamped inside of our geologist camp, I knew something was up, the gig was up. In this process, I was lowered down the basket of one of these holes, and about from me to this elderly woman here in the front was sitting a 7-foot-tall alien gray. The stench was worse than the worst garbage can you can imagine. I didn't waste any time. I reached for my pistol. At that time, as an engineer, I didn't have time to carry all the folderol of one of these big submachine guns that all the sea spray and the yellow fruit and the outer perimeter and inner perimeter security people carried. I carried a little Walther PPK pistol with a 9-shot clip. Plus, you're in almost like a spacesuit environment, and you're reaching for a gun. It's not the easiest thing to do, and then to pop a clip in it and start shooting. And I killed 2 of them. Yes, they're mortal, and they do die. However, in the process, one of them did this. All I remember is that he just kind of waved his hand in front of his chest, and the next thing I know, this blue beam hit me and just literally opened me up like a fish. It was some form of electrical force, because the kind of like being hit by a lightning bolt burned all my toenails off of me. And there was a Green Beret that was right behind me, but he risked his life. He shoved me back in the basket and hit the button and took me up. And I wouldn't be alive talking to you today if it wasn't for him. I'm forever indebted. He lost his life. 66 Secret Service agents, Green Berets, Black Berets, cracked troops lost their lives because the government, our United States government, lied, did not tell us anything about the alien threat. There's a war underneath there, and I'm talking dead serious. The military's known about the alien question for the better part of 70 years. Right now, there are 131 active deep underground military bases in the United States. There's 1,477 of them worldwide. It'd take a year to 2 years to build each one, and now they're capable of building a couple of them a year with sophisticated methods. My colleague Al Bielek has actually been on some of the high-speed railways, the magneto-leviton trains that connect all the deep underground military bases within the United States. He's been on a Mach 2 train and floats off of a single rail at 3/4 of an inch off the rail, and we have nothing like this on the surface. Groom Lake is where the infamous Area 51, S4, S2, it was later become the most secret base in the United States. We built 9 underground military bases there, each with an average capacity capable of basically a city underground, roughly 4¼ cubic miles hollowed out underground. Now, boring machines, for instance, they don't bore, they literally vitrify and melt the rock, deflagrate the rock. It's a very sophisticated laser melting and deflagrating system. It reduces the rock to a powder and then melts the remaining rock as a coating on the inside of the base, so you don't have to use gunite cements and other kinds of things like that. That's all old hat now.
Phil Steiner gave most of his lectures in 1995. He gained a following speaking around the United States, telling people about his alleged experiences. Phil claimed that he personally knew people who also worked in black budget programs who were murdered, and that most of them were made to look like a suicide.
There's a good chance that when I fly back to to Vegas, I have to drive home. I left my car down in Vegas. I have to drive home alone. I'm scared to hell.
On January 17th, 1996, after not being seen for at least 5 days, Phil Steiner was found dead in his apartment by his landlord and a detective from the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. The autopsy report listed the cause of death as unknown, but it was later discovered that Phil was actually strangled by his own catheter hose. Was this a case of negligence or a cover-up?
There's a number of you ladies present, so I won't gore you out, but Al has seen some of the wounds, and there's a few other people that have been to a few of my other lectures, and they can attest that I have been shot. I've been run off the road. I've been pushed off the road.
Probably the reason I got shot to pieces and 11 attempts on my life is I am a direct threat to the entire system. The New World Order, the alien agenda is one and the same. It's world takeover and the decimation of the population of this planet. There are 9 races of alien populations. To look at a human being as a bag of food. They're not cannibals. They don't eat the flesh and the bones and all that kind of stuff. They use the glandular secretions of animals and human beings as a mixture of the vitamins for their food. They get high off of our adrenal gland substances called adrenochrome. It's something like cocaine to them. And you'll keep seeing more and more people disappear. Right now, there's 100,000 children totally unaccountable through FBI archives, cannot be traced anywhere. They haven't been murdered. Nobody's ever seen them. I think they're hauled underneath in some of these bases, and they are summarily done away with, and they are literally eaten. Now, that is a scary thing indeed.
Deep underground military bases. Extraterrestrials living beneath Earth's surface. A race that might not even be from another planet, but rather one that has existed here, in the shadows, throughout mankind's entire development. Is this the biggest cover-up in our history? Or just another conspiracy theory? We still have no definitive proof that any of these claims are true. which is all the more reason why this just might be one of the greatest journalistic responsibilities of our time.
And I'm not asking you to believe me in toto. I am asking you to seriously do enough homework that you can go out in through the public record, through the congressional records, find out who's voting for what, and go from there. Do your own program, do your own agenda, and do your own speaking out. And if enough of us do this, there is some saving grace.
I don't know how much time I have, and I'm not too sure how long TikTok is going to allow this video to stay up. The only thing I ask is that you engage with the video so that more people can see it. Years back, I was contracted as an engineer by the U.S. government to build an underground facility out in the southwest part of the United States. I'm no stranger when it comes to working on underground facilities. I've worked on quite a few. However, this was the first time that I've worked with the government. I arrived on site. It was heavily guarded by U.S. personnel. I was also informed that there were snipers in the area. I met with who I needed to meet with, confirmed that I am who I say I am. I was told that I couldn't give my real name. I couldn't discuss anything personal about my life. I had to sign a book's worth of non-disclosures, and we were told that we couldn't talk, and the only time we could talk was about the project and the project only. The project was to build a 7-story facility for researchers and scientists. So first we would have to dig 7.5 miles into the ground, and then from there we would create our 7-story facility. So the project began. Within a mile of digging into the earth, we started to see tunnels, we started to see structures, we started to see what looked like a little city, and then we saw them. They are tall, they are gray, they have these big black eyes, and they were not happy that we dug into their facility. Shocked is an understatement because I did not know they actually exist. I thought they only exist in movies, and I thought they were just a figment of people's imaginations. Who wasn't shocked was the U.S. military that was on site, as well as the site manager. I very vividly remember the site manager being irritated, like, oh brother, like what are they doing here? The site manager would go on to say, don't worry about it, we're just going to stop the project for about 2 weeks. I'm going to get in touch with the project manager, he'll talk to the higher ups, and before you know it, we'll be back in no time. And he was right, because within 2 weeks, actually less than 2 weeks, we were back on site. But this time we had new rules, and those rules were we were going to be able to still continue our project, but we could not talk to these beings, we couldn't interact with them, we couldn't engage with them. They want nothing to do with us, so we're going to stay on our side and they're going to stay on their side. And so the project continued. When I tell you these beings didn't pay us any type of attention, I mean it. They are very stern, they are extremely focused, and whatever they were doing had all of their attention. Now, I can't begin to tell you what they were working on, not because I signed a bunch of non-disclosures, but because I've never seen anything like that. I don't have the words to describe what I saw. After a while, researchers and scientists started to come and occupy the facility. More rules, and those rules were we couldn't engage with the scientists or the researchers. We couldn't ask what they were working on, we couldn't ask their name, we couldn't have small talk. We were still to just continue our job. They were going to do their job, and then those beings were going to stay on their side and do whatever it is that they were doing. So now a problem comes about. Now we have the researchers and the scientists slowly expanding to the side of those beings. Remember the rule, everyone that is human is going to stay on one side, and everyone that is non-human is going to stay on their side. Higher ups, officials, whoever's in charge, they're not enforcing that rule for the scientists and the researchers. They are allowing them to slowly expand to the side of those beings. Then a rumor starts to go about in the facility, and that rumor is that the U.S. government doesn't want to share the facility. They're trying to make these beings so uncomfortable that they just leave, and then we can take over the entire facility 100%. And trust me, that was very audacious of the U.S. government to test the patience of 8 feet tall beings working on technology that none of us have ever seen. And then one day, unfortunately, it happens. The sirens start to sound for us to evacuate the facility. People are screaming, people are running, people are panicking, people are falling all over each other. These beings are extremely intelligent, and they figured out that the government is trying to push them out of a facility that they were already occupying, and they're not having it. You have these beings pew-pewing people to the point that they burst into millions of particles. People are literally evaporating. Yeah, you have the military firing back, but their weapons are no match for the weapons that these beings have. My heart is beating so hard that it feels like it's going to burst out of my chest. I run to the elevator where I black out, said Phil Steiner, who this story actually comes from. Phil was an engineer who claimed to have worked on the Dulce underground base in New Mexico, where a full-on war broke out between the Tall Grays and the U.S. government due to conflict over who will be able to occupy that base. If stories like this interest you, be sure to give me a follow because I enjoy having these type of discussions too.
E alienígena não tem.
Como?
Alienígena.
Alienígena? O que é?
Nunca, essa palavra você nunca ouviu falar? Alienígena.
Alienígena, não. Isso chama-se Mayushibu.
Isso aqui?
Sim.
Mancunawabu.
Mancunawabu.
Sério?
Mancunawabu é um que mora debaixo da terra.
Eu falei, esse aí.
Que se virou formiga hoje, que nós chamamos Una, que é uma formiga grande, chama-se Mancunawabu.
Que essa formiga também é muito perigosa, né, Buina? Se as pessoas ficam mexendo com ela demais, ela leva o espírito da pessoa para debaixo da terra também. Para voltar tem que ser um pajé bem bom.
São seres que pode aparecer em luz divina, com a luz do Nishipan. São seres que a gente pode ter o contato, que moram debaixo da terra.